Dear Daniel.
Dear Phily.
So we're getting married tomorrow. That feels really weird to say out loud, but it's true. December, January, February, March, April, May, June. 7 months since we got engaged. Since you, Daniel, got all the way down on one knee and said, actually, I think I quite like you. Should we spend the rest of our lives together? And then I cried and said yes, obviously. And here we are.
Can't quite believe that we're getting married tomorrow. It feels surreal. I think my 8-year-old self would probably be saying, why aren't you married yet? You're nearly 30. And my 18-year-old self would be like, why are you getting married? You don't ever want to get married. I, from quite early into my teenage years, felt like marriage was a little bit of a farce, that having a piece of paper to prove your dedication and love for another person was silly. You should just be able to show that, do that, without having some sort of weird, archaic ceremony where you have lots of people just watching you say yes to the other person, when in today's world you're saying yes to that person every day for many, many years before marriage.
Maybe I'm only saying this because I have the gift of hindsight and I am where I am now. We are where we are now. But honestly, I think if someone had come up to me moments after our first date and said, do you reckon this is the one you're going to stay put with? Do you reckon you'll get married? I'd have been like, yeah, probably. Because I've never connected with someone in an instant as much as we did. I can remember agreeing to go on this Tinder date and thinking, what am I doing? I was so nervous. And then after arriving, I think about 20 minutes late, walked into this bar in Reading and they were waiting for me. He stood up, gave me a big hug.
Seems like yesterday that we were sat in Purple Turtle, quite tipsy after quite a few drinks and some spicy food that you did not enjoy. And we had our Guinness cherub who was sharing our bench at that time. He was triple parked with 3 Guinnesses, and he must have shot us with quite a few of Cupid's arrows that night, because I think from that moment on I knew that this was special. And I still didn't want to get married at that point. Not interested. Still thought marriage was a bit of a farce.
Oh, this is going to sound so cheesy and cringe, but I can remember saying at the time when I was telling my friends, felt like we'd known each other for years. And now we have. And tomorrow we're going to be writing on a little piece of paper to say, yeah, actually, I think I want to know you for many, many more years. All of the years. And actually, we're going to call ourselves husband and wife. And that sounds so grown up. I am 30, so I don't know why that seems so unbelievable. And it just feels like this is, on the one hand, a start of a new chapter, because you are going to be my husband. I am going to be your wife. I'm going to have to somehow get used to saying those very grown-up words. But at the same time, it feels like it doesn't change anything. And it's just a really lovely thing to do to cement what we already have. A piece of paper doesn't really change that. But it also does mean a lot, especially when I can remember you saying to me, when we'd been together for a few months, I think, might even have been in the first few days, but you said, nah, don't want to get married, don't think I will, don't need to. And you're right, you don't need to, but it's pretty cool that you want to, and I'm really happy that you want to do that with me.
Fast forward to a few months later that I came out and I saw you in Oregon, which you've said many times didn't feel weird, even though if you put that in another scenario, very strange that on a first date I would tell you that I would fly straight out a few months later to see you on the other side of the world. I remember you calling yourself the Ice Queen, or saying you had a heart of ice or something. I can't remember exactly what the words you used. And yet you told me that I had thought that you could be yourself with me, you could be silly and not feel like you were being judged. And I don't know, that broke down my first wall, I guess, of marriage, to be like, okay, this is something really special then.
And I find myself looking back at a lot of our firsts together, and I can vividly remember the first time you cooked me dinner. It was either on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, and it was mac and cheese, and I told you that no one had ever cooked me dinner before, and I think you said something along the lines of, well, I'll cook you dinner whenever you want. I think you might have regretted that one, because now you cook me dinner every day. Sometimes you moan about it. I think about our first holiday when we couldn't really afford the beach holiday in France that we wanted, so we went to a city that less people visit. We stayed in a beautiful Airbnb, but it was on the top floor of a building and it was so hot. I think it was like mid to high 30s the whole week. Limoges it was called, and when we booked it we thought it was called Limoges or Limonges because we didn't know how to pronounce it properly.
We had some really silly times in that first year. I remember going to France and us being very broke and picking a city in the middle of France that was cheap. We stayed in this incredible loft apartment, but it was the middle of the summer. It was so hot. We spent most of the holiday trying to find water, trying to find a pool or the sea or something. And I remember we booked a hotel that we thought, well, it had an outdoor pool, but we thought that it was all right, it was decent. It wasn't the best hotel, but it wasn't the worst. We get there, effectively a crackdown, screaming people throughout the night, fights happening, clear drug use. Yeah, we locked ourselves in and drove ourselves all the way to the sea the next day. And then I think one of the biggest tests to kind of show whether this was ever going to work, we spent 8 months on the other side of the world to each other, and then we spent the next 4 months in my childhood bedroom through COVID. And I think we both thought that if we could do both of those things, well, we could do anything. And I don't think we ever looked back after that, really.
I can remember moving into our first place together, our little first floor flat in West Norwood with single glazing, really bad condensation in the winter that we had to buy one of those sucky window things that sucked all the condensation off because it would drip down and rot on the windowsills. None of our clothes would dry. The front door was falling apart. But we were so excited when we got the keys to that place. It was our first little place that was just for us. And I can't believe I'm saying this in a video that's going out on the internet, but I can remember the first morning we both just walked around with no clothes on because we could, and it was just us and there was no one else there.
We moved, we got cats, we moved to a different part of the country. We now spend 3 to 6 months of the year in America. You're a professional athlete, we run a YouTube channel, that is our jobs. And to think at the beginning of our relationship, if you had told us that, we would think our future selves were crazy. And I think through all of that, you just kept chipping away at that kind of barrier. And I think that feeling of weddings being a farce, I think was just a perception of what I thought a wedding was. That it was a lot of money. It was just a show to everyone around you that you were so in love. But actually, I think the wedding day is just about sharing your love with your closest people, the people you love more than anything. And that's what tomorrow is. Tomorrow is we are literally just spending the day with the people that we love the most. And that's special.
I'm feeling excited for tomorrow. It's just going to be us, our parents, our siblings, our closest family, and I think it's going to be a really special day. We've joked about it for the last few weeks and months because next year we're going to have what I've been calling a proper wedding. Big party, white dress, band, bar, all of our friends. But actually this is the proper wedding. We don't actually need to do that part. We will, because it's going to be a bloody fun time. But this is the real deal. This is the signing of the legal papers, exchanging of the rings, saying of the vows, and probably a few teary eyes as well. I'm looking at you, Daniel. I think it's probably going to hit me when we get there, when I'm standing with my dad, getting ready to walk down the very short aisle at Shore House, and seeing you stood at the front waiting for me.
And it's a bit cliche, maybe it's a bit cringe, but I think we definitely are yin and yang. If you think you put our personalities on paper, we just don't match up at all. You are the outgoing, extroverted, immensely passionate, immensely driven, stubborn firecracker of a woman, and I'm an introverted, quiet, much prefer my own space kind of guy. And yet I think what we've done is we've shared the best parts of our personality and pushed the other person forward, which, yeah, I owe you a lot there, pushing me outside of my comfort zone, pushing me to do things that I wouldn't have done myself. And I'd like to think that there's been moments where you've gone full steam into something and I've brought you back a little bit, or calmed you down when something really frustrates you. And also all the cooking.
Get married. It's crazy. It is crazy, but it's also not crazy. Because when you think about it, it's the most obvious thing to do. You find someone who you love. This person is your best friend in the whole world. You feel like you could spend every minute just with this person forever. And if there weren't other people, that would suck. But this person would make that okay. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's healthy to spend every waking minute with your significant other. But if I had to do that with you, life would be pretty good. So to you, my fiancé, Daniel, my future husband, to you, I want to say thank you for being who you are, and in doing that, allowing me to become who I am. Because as cheesy as that sounds, I have never felt more myself than when I'm with you. And you have this way of making me not question who I am, what I believe in, how to express myself, and how to believe in myself. Because there's just no question of any of those things with you.
I think my overwhelming emotion for tomorrow is pure excitement. I thought I'd be really nervous, and I probably will be just before, but I thought I'd be way more nervous than I am. But I think I'm just excited for the future. I mean, if these 6.5 years are anything to go by, we are going to have some crazy years to come. And I'm sure there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be tough times, there's going to be amazing ups as well. But I think if I am spending the rest of my life with you, then I think I'll be happy. Now I know that I'll be happy.
But marriage is a big word, and it's a big commitment. So I think, yeah, it is a little bit scary, but only a tiny bit. Scary in the best way. Scary because I can't imagine doing life without you. But to you, Daniel, I love you very much. And you know what? Instead of listing through all of the reasons I love you and why I think you're amazing, I'm just going to repeat back to you one of my favourite things that you've ever said to me, and that I remind you of quite a lot, especially when I'm annoying you, which is never change. Please never change. Because whilst we all have our flaws, our strengths, our weaknesses, I wouldn't have it any other way. You're perfect just the way you are.
Here's to the future, to both of us. If I had a glass of wine right now, or Prosecco, I would be toasting, but I'm in the middle of a wood, speaking to a camera. So cheers to me and you.